Hello.
Hello.
Yes, Rachel.
The meeting started.
Yes, ethical codes have been completed. Good morning, friends. Today we have an eminent speaker with us, CA Ankit SANGHVI. I request my core committee member Forum Bhanushali to give a formal introduction for Ankit SANGHVI.
Thank you, Sneha. CA Ankit SANGHVI is a partner with Mrs. Pankaj P. SANGHVI and Company Chartered Accountants, helming the firm in area of management consultancy and IT solutions, along with the traditional area of practice. He has graduated from Narsi Mundi College of Commerce and Economics in the year 2006. He has been qualified as a chartered accountant in the year 2008. He is bestowed upon for the best paper in mathematics in PE1 examination of ICAI. He is an erstwhile esteemed visiting faculty at the ML Danukar College teaching financial management subjects. He has mentored students, initiated the learning development program for the BFM students. He has co-authored a book on derivatives based on the BCFM syllabus of Mumbai University. He has co-authored a publication by WIRC on Guide to Working from Home for Every Professional. He is a public speaker addressing various seminars in colleges and branches of WIRC and SISC ICAI on diverse topics like value investments, right of minority shareholders, networking professional opportunity for CA, etc. He has been a past member of the ICAI study group and task force on aspects of income tax compliances formed by the Direct Tax Compliances Committee of ICAI for the year 2018-19. He has been a diligent member of the Student Committee of WRC ICAI for the year 2019-20, Valuation Committee of WRC ICAI for the year 2018-19, Information Technology Committee of WRC ICAI for the year 2016-17 and 17-18, Hostel Committee for the year 2015-16, and CFMIP Committee for the year 2010-11 of WRC ICAI. He has also been a past convener of Vilepalli CP Study Circle of WRC. Presently, he is the Vice Chairman of the RRC and Skill Development Committee and core group member of the Student Committee at the Chamber of Tax Consultants. With this brief introduction, let me introduce the speaker for the day, CA Ankit Pankaj SANGHVI.
Thank you, Forum. Dear members, due to medical emergency, Alpesh Bhai will not be available today. So if any emergency, then you can contact me. And now, Ankit Bhai. Ankit Bhai.
Yes, Neha.
Ankit Bhai, over to you. Now we have just, all the queries will be compiled by our team. And after your session is over, we'll give a formal vote of thanks and then we proceed with the queries.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Over to you.
Okay. Firstly, I would like to thank Alpesh Bhai, Himanshu Bhai, and the entire committee consisting of Disha, Rishi, Balaji, Forum, Sneha for inviting me for a very interesting topic, Practice in Tech Era, Organize, Optimize Online. Thank you, Preeti ma'am, for recommending my name for this topic to the Mulund CPA Study Circle. So Mulund is my sasural, and hence for me it's sort of a homecoming. And I'm very delighted to be here with all of you. Over the course of next 100 minutes, my aim would be to share practical experiences, solutions to the best of my ability that I have, gone through or learned over the past so many years that I have been there. I have been into practice since I was the age of 16 because that is the time since my dad had forced me to start visiting his office. So though my articleship did start somewhere in 2005, but the training started right after my 10th standard exam. Since then, I've been trying to bring a lot of tech related changes in the office I can relate to some of the members who might be aware, in those erstwhile days where we used to prepare the bank summary in the fullscape, and then from the bank summary, we used to translate it to a balance sheet and a capital account. From there, we used to prepare a computation on the fullscape, then get it either typed on the typewriter or handwritten. I mean, I've done all of that. And then slowly and gradually, we've started adopting a lot of technology. I must tell you, my father has always been very, very, very upcoming and forthcoming in adopting technology. So in our office, since about 1992 or 3 is where he bought his first computer, and since then we've always had a computer at our office. But it's just that people have been reluctant initially, and slowly and gradually I could have forced them or convinced them to start adopting technology. Just a small disclaimer on a lighter note. This is a technical session that contains non-technical content. Get relaxed, so to get ready for some details. We will have fun because we will take the webinar seriously. I'm not endorsing any product. If at all mentioned during the presentation, evaluation to be done by oneself only. The content generated in the presentation is either by AI, that is artificial intelligence, or AI, that is ANKIT intelligence. Bottom line, AI is good. On this slide note, I will now move forward. So what I've tried to do is I've divided the session between 100 minutes of the session, where I would be taking whatever contents that I feel should be shared with you. And then I'll follow up with a 20-minute question and answer session. I've kept a decent time and tried to ensure that most of the queries that the members have can be answered. So first, would start with the last O that I mentioned in the name of the topic, that is online. In this brief topic of online, what I will do is I will share how we can transform our practice in terms of the technology, what are the means, how we can achieve it, how we can complete our current compliance calendar. To be honest, we all don't know, when the whole situation will improve and when things will normalize. Some of the offices have started, some of the offices are still not functioning or working from home. So these are the challenges that we are grappling with. We have those extended deadlines with us, but somewhere it will have to end, right? Also, any session we take on online, there was a request which Himanshu Bhai had particularly made, wherein I would also briefly try to show you how we can work around in Tally as well, how we can look at working online on Tally. At the same time, how we can conduct our audit on Tally. There is a good feature of audit on Tally, which I am not sure if we are aware of, but I would try to cover it for the benefit of the members. That comes to me as a very important question, which I would like most of you to answer, if at all. In the chat box, you can just put in. Is your office functioning as of today? There are 4 particular options that I feel that we have. One is yes, completely we've started operating the offices. Yes, partially. Yes, completely online, though we might not be visiting physically the offices, but we are functioning completely online in terms of whatever we have. And then the last option that is there is no. So quickly, if you can put in some of the answers in the chat box, it would be worthwhile for me to go through it. So I've started getting some answers where people are answering me yes partially. There is a very good answer where it is completely online, not functioning, working online partially, working from home, completely online partially, working partially at bank audits. So various answers that I'm seeing. I will give you my answer. My answer is yes, partially. Partially, we've started the operations at our office. So I've been fortunate enough where there have been certain staff of mine who are present or are staying nearby, which allowed me to start my office. And then obviously there are certain people who are staying far off there. So my office is in Villeparle. So people who are staying at Borivali or Virar or far off places, they've started working online. We've been doing that since I think 1 week of the lockdown. I was lucky lucky, I would tell you why, because what happened was that 1 week before the Prime Minister announced the lockdown, I felt that it was risky for my staff to come into the office, and hence what we did was we started preparing tasks and methods in terms of how we could shift if we at all we want to shift. And I think 4 or 5 days before the announcement, we were already prepared to shift online, and that has really immensely helped us to actually ensure that we lose out lesser in terms of number of days of working. Another question that I would like to ask is, how are we operating our office? Completely online, partially online, or currently we are still offline? We are evaluating the options that are available right now in the market. Actually, we are flooded with a lot of options, a lot of suggestions, a lot of theories. Someone has given us advices, etc. So we've been started operating. So how we look at our practice, typically, our practice encompasses the income tax and TDS returns that we have filed, the GST returns, which we already must have started filing since most of the due dates, at least pertaining to March, April, and May, have been there. Then we have our statutory and tax audits that we need to do. We have a litigation practice. We might have consulting related to tax or business consulting or other various consultings that may be there. And then accounting as a function, if at all we are providing. Everyone might not be into accounting, but that can be one of the other functions that we have in our practice. So this is, the typical practice areas that we are there. I would try to believe that the practice of litigation or consulting is the ones which would have been impacted comparatively lesser compared to the other areas, because the other areas require collaboration with the team, working on the computers, etc. While consulting or litigation is something which, it's more or less we were working already independently. Again, with respect to the returns filings that we need to do, we are also a lot of dependent on the clients, because we require data from them. We require physical access to their offices, probably in terms of audit that we do. So that is where the major impact that we have been seeing. So what we should do, or what we will do over the next few slides, is we'll go through some of the solutions that I have learned over the period. Some would work for some would work for some. I believe online shifting our practice online is a customized solution, which we need to figure out what is working for our practice. So then fundamentally, I believe we have two very important options that are there. One is we upgrade ourselves to web-based applications. And the second is obviously we upgrade the IT infrastructure that is present with us. Upgrading the IT infrastructure would be wherein adopting a server or going on the virtual private server or NAS, or some of them which I will discuss briefly over the next few slides. Coming to the first option, that is the web-based applications. First, before actually explaining to you, I would first bring notice to you some of the applications or services that are there available right now in the market. We have income tax and TDS returns if you need to file. We have Tax Cloud India, that is nothing but clear tax. We have a solution called Hostbooks. Hostbooks is someone which is tied with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So there are certain free options also available with us. Then we have a service called Protact. If you go to protact.in, if I'm not mistaken, you will see a lot of solutions that they provide us. As far as GST returns are concerned, Clear Tax again is there. Hostbooks again provides the same solution, and Protact is also there. There are many other solutions available right now in the market which are web-based. I have just named few which I have had the privilege of going through demos or going through certain negotiation phases when I was trying to adopt to one of them. Accounts, we have had since long. We have had QuickBooks, we have had Zoho. Again, Hostbooks is another option which is there, which our institute has recommended. Now, coming to which option should we choose, there are two options that we discussed that are there. My personal belief is shifting to a web-based platform should be the best solution out of the two that we have. I have my reasons for it. The first and primary reason that I would mention is that the web-based applications, the coding, the backend of the software that we say, the language that it is written into, are designed to be online. They are seamless. They are easily accessible. They are hosted by reputed companies over a longer period of time. Like if you say ClearTax, it has been then around with us since a long time. So the chances of it going down, etc., are far less. And again, the advantage always that we have is it will be accessible to us across the forum. So it is not dependent on a particular place. What again, we've seen with Tally, Tally has been in our lives since long, and we've tried to shift it online through various mediums. They've been trying a lot, to shift it online, to make it a web-based platform, but they've been struggling a lot. The reason why they're struggling is because the way it is coded. I have had a very real-time experience, real life experience, I would say, where one of our clients, where we are providing CFO services, they were planning to take their operations pan-India. And when they were searching for an ERP solution, a complete ERP package, something similar to what SAP is, they selected one of the platforms which was very widely used in their industry. And, it was a desktop-based application, to be fair. And when they tried to shift it online, we struggled immensely. They were very confident that they would be able to do it. But practically, when we started implementing it, we realized it was not possible. And what used to happen was that, a simple function like logging in to the software used to take about 10, 15, 20 minutes. And I have videos about 45, 50 minutes where that is the amount of time it used to take to generate various reports inside the software. So that is what I'm basically coming from. If you're looking to move online, I believe shifting to a web-based application is the best solution that we should go forward. Any other solution that we take is more or less a makeshift solution. It's not where practically we would be able to function very seamlessly or smoothly. Another factor, again, a very important factor that I feel is that currently whatever softwares that we are using, say for example, for income tax or TDS, if you are using Computax or Spectrum or SAG Infotech, KDK, or, there are various options that are available in the market. So we are already paying yearly AMCs for them. We are paying yearly AMCs for a GST software, probably separately for an income tax software, for Tally, etc., etc. And if we, choose any of the options that we are going to discuss at the later part of the presentation, then it will add to our cost. Not only we would still be paying the monthly or the yearly AMCs that we are paying, but along with it, those solutions will also come at a cost. Some would be a higher one-time cost, while some would have one-time cost mixed with a lot of annual costs. So obviously that would result in increase of costs for us, which one definitely has to consider. So, and another sense is, we generally talk about adopting the technologies, and we talk about automation, we talk about artificial intelligence, and we have seminars on that. But when it is shifting to basic softwares or basic part of our lives, from a desktop-based application to web-based application, we are still somewhere a bit hesitant. So hence I feel, that shifting to a web-based application would always be the smoothest part. I've shifted particularly the GST compliance part to ClearTax. And I must tell you, earlier I was using WebTel as a software, and also I was using the Tally, which is provided to us. Now I've shifted to ClearTax. There are various other reports, various functionalities which these bring in, which are really helpful, I believe. And, one should at least try and consider testing. Like, for example, Tax Cloud India again has a tie-up with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So what I feel is that now, since we've all started filing income, TDS returns in particular, I think 31st of July is the last date. So what one can do is at least file 1 or 2 or 3 returns online, which are again free of cost. What that will help us is to understand the platform, to understand whether, how convenient it is, how easy it is, whether it is giving us the same functionalities or not. And if we find it, equally effective for our solutions, then, one can look at shifting slowly and gradually. Similar one can do with the filing of income tax returns. Similar one can look at for the GST as well. And believe me that is should be the right approach of once. First, obviously, one should test it, and if we feel that it is effective, then we can look at shifting. So that is my opinion as far as the web-based applications are concerned. Coming to the second option, that is upgrading the IT infrastructure. We must have already heard a lot of seminars, webinars over the past 3.5, 4 months about various options that are available. That is the VPN or a VPS or NAS. So what I will do is I will not spend much of my time on those options that are there, but I will briefly go through it and see how it can help you. So there are 3 typical options that I have tried to divide the options at. One being virtual private network, the other being virtual private server, and the lastly being the network attached storage. While I was going through virtual private network on the web, I came across a very interesting definition, or you might say explanation, for what a virtual private network is. And I will just read it out for just the sake of fun. A virtual private network extends a private network across a public network and enables users to send and receive data across shared or public network as if their computing devices were directly connected to a private network. I mean, I don't know, but whenever I read this, it feels like reading a section and, with certain provisos, and it starts getting complicated. To put it in a simple word, if I have to put it, basically what it does is, if we have currently a server at our office, if we are operating a client server relationship at our office, it tries to convert your server into an online server through generally, we have a static IP option. So if you're using an internet connection, a default internet connection, right now the option by default that comes along with is a dynamic IP address. So one can write to your service provider, the telecom service provider, obtain a static IP address. Once you obtain a static IP address, that becomes sort of a website for your it's a private server that it becomes, and where already, since all your data etc is loaded, one can start working on the softwares that are available. So that is what is all virtual private network is all about. Coming to the next option, virtual private server. Virtual private server is nothing but it's an option similar to a virtual private network, while in virtual private network, the server that we make do of is the server that is lying in our office. Virtual private server is a server which is lying somewhere far off. There is a third party who is providing these kind of services, and whatever applications, data, etc. that we have, we load it onto their server. They basically rent space on their server. The big names that we have over here are the AWS, that is the Amazon Web Services. We have Microsoft that provides, Google that provides such kind of services, and then there are a lot of various private server hosters that are there, where you can approach them and try to understand our requirements. What is the kind of server space that we will require? What is the amount of data that will be there? Whether all our applications that we have will be able to run smoothly on those servers or not. So these are some of the consulting that we can do. And once you find a good host, we can look at shifting to a virtual private server. What is the difference between the two? VPN. VPN might require investment in a new server. Probably our existing server that we are using might not be, good enough to be hosted as a server. Then there will be various maintenance costs that will come along with it. While if you go to VPS, VPS runs on a subscription-based model. So it is generally a typically monthly or a yearly subscription that we need to take, depending on the size of the data that we want to use on the server, and decide our fees, and we pay to them on a regular basis. On a VPN is a firm's responsibility to maintain the server, while with VPS, the responsibility lies with the with the service provider. VPN, when in office, the advantage what we get with VPN is that VPN can operate as a LAN when you are in the office, working in the office, and when you're going out, it becomes a server for you. So the advantage that it brings is that it requires lesser bandwidth. at least when you're working from office. Another advantage is that at times when your internet is down, if you have a VPS, then you will not be able to access any of the data. While VPN, at least on the office, you can access the data on a LAN or on the computer or the server at least. So that is one that is there. Since on a VPS it is hosted by a service provider, you would require a continuous internet connection, and then and only then you will be able to access the data. In VPN, the security of the server and data is our own responsibility, since the server is going to lie at our own office. While on a VPS, generally the basic security features are always available. That can be also selected while we are selecting various service providers who are going to offer that option to us. One can opt for higher security features at a premium that can be provided by them. While we are in VPN, the server at our office will always have to be switched on, and then and only then the data will be available online. VPS, generally the servers are always on 24 hours. They have huge server rooms that are placed. So with VPN, there was a typical story. I remember one of my friends, chartered accountant, who has a VPN much before the pandemic forced us to move. And I just asked him, the first question, what I did ask him was somewhere in the month of May 2020, that ek bhi bar light nahi gaya kya? I mean, that is where I come from when I discuss the last option. That for some reason, since he does not have access to his own computer or his own office, if for some reason the electricity connection would have, even temporarily been disconnected, then one has to actually physically access the office, physically access the server, switch it on back again, and only after we do that, again our server is up, live and running. While with VPS, generally that is not there, because those guys who ever are providing these services to us would have those various backup options available, where they will typically ensure that the server is always on. So these are some of the differences between the two that I wanted to highlight. Network attached storage device. Network attached storage device typically started as a backup device. A lot of chartered accountants and IT companies and many other companies started to use that as a backup device, where mirror backup used to be taken, or a differential backup used to be taken, and that is how the network attached storage device did come into picture. After that, now they have come up with various advanced versions of network attached storage device. Where you can not only host data but also host your applications, and it becomes typically your server. Why this? So virtually, if you see a difference between a VPN and a network attached storage device is reduced to a very great extent. The basic fundamental difference between the two would be, while your VPS, that is your server, will have computing capabilities on its own on a standalone basis, a network attached storage device does not have any computing capabilities. So typically what happens is that whenever you access any application or access any data, the data is stored on that device, but whenever it is accessed, it is loaded onto your RAM of the computer where you're accessing it, and from there it is started running. And whenever you save any data, again it gets back to the network attached storage device. I mean, this happens obviously very fast, so we don't realize it, but that is what the fundamental difference between the two is. If at all we go for a network attached storage device, one other investment that we'll have to make is we'll have to invest into a firewall. Typically, the servers that we buy do have, lot of servers do have an inbuilt firewall services coming along with it, while a network attached storage device might not. So if we are looking at that as an option, we would have to invest into a firewall, be it a physical or a software application, anyone which suits us, because that will ensure that your data is secure. So these are the three options that we broadly discussed. I would again, briefly go through each one of them. VPN, high infrastructure cost on the server. Typically, if I am right, a server costs anywhere between 70,000 and upwards. Again, firewall might be required if it does not come in built with the server that we are buying. There will be a recurring cost that we'll have to incur, recurring cost for static IP address, recurring for maintenance. Add to it, our software AMCs would always be there, which we'll have to spare. And if you are investing into a firewall, then firewall will also again come in at a cost. Coming to a VPS, it's an annual subscription base, so they charge you yearly typically. Again, you'll have to pay AMC for various softwares. If you are opting for a higher security based server VPS services, then that would also come in at a slight higher cost. NAS one-time cost. If I'm not mistaken, in one of our one of the service providers did give us an option where a decent sized NAS was available at somewhere between 30 to 35,000 rupees. So it's comparatively lesser in terms of cost because it does not come with computing capabilities. So a lot of those frills costs are removed. Again, here your firewall is one which we'll have to invest into. NAS is again, the another advantage with NAS is it's a very small device. So if such a situation does arise again in future, I hope not, then since it's a very small device, it can easily be portable, shifted again to our home. So, we can unlock it, shift it to our home, and again start it back. So that way it'll, help us. AMC for softwares, as we discussed, comes with all the three options that we have there. I hope I'm not going too fast. I typically have an habit of doing that. So if at all I am, if you can, someone can put it on the chat box. So I would.
Ankit bhai, you are perfectly on a smooth pace.
Great. Thank you. So what are the options? So if we are going for any of the three options that we discussed here, what are the various points that we need to consider to select the right server or a right service provider? The first and foremost important thing that we need to consider is the security of the data. The data that we deal, needless to say, is very confidential, and hence we need to ensure that it is secure. And this is the foremost question we need an answer to any of the options that we select. Speed is another thing that we need. We are all always grappling with various due dates, and hence we are always on short of time. And what happens is that if your softwares or the applications are not working typically at the speed that we are working at, it results in very low productivity, longer working hours, and as an individual also you tend to get frustrated. And imagine if we are also getting frustrated, you can understand our teams who are working on would also start getting frustrated, and it basically puts you off. So the speed at which you can function is another important aspect that I believe one should always look at while selecting. Service record of the vendors, that is another important thing. So what has happened is that the pandemic has thrown open a host of opportunities for these kind of vendors. So there are a lot of vendors who might have come up very recently. Someone, a typical probably an hardware consultant that we must be referring to, must have started opting for these kind of services, offering these kind of services to us. So we need to be very sure that whomsoever we are selecting has a good track record, because it's not something which we would want to typically shift again and again. We would want a long-term one-time solution, and hence the service record of the vendors is very, very, very important. Backup is another function, irrespective of whether we opt for these options today. Even if we don't opt for any of the options and we want to function the way we are functioning as of today, backup is something which we should always have. Most of us would have already started using those services. A lot of us, as a backup, what we started doing was we typically purchased the external hard disk with a 1 TB or a 2 TB, depending on the size of the hard disk that we require. And we started taking those backups every Tuesdays or every Saturdays. But was it really followed, or is it really followed even today very diligently? Typically what happens, it has happened every time in my office, is that whenever you have those due dates coming in, say somewhere in July, somewhere in September, somewhere in November, somewhere in December when the GST audits come in or the VAT audits used to come in. The team always has the reasons of not doing it today. And typically, whenever some or the other data gets deleted, we realize that the backup that we have is too old a backup and is of no use to us. And then again, what happens is that if we are somewhere in the month of July and we have to complete all the return filing, and if we lose that data, then we'll have to rework the entire thing. Sometimes we miss out on important points while we had worked for the first time. Adding to the time is another aspect that we do. So I believe the options that we should always look at is the online backup options. I've been using one online backup service provider since about 10 years, if not less, but definitely more, 10 years plus. And I have been very happy. So the service provider that I have been working with and other service providers, online service providers, all of them, what they offer is they offer differential backup. My service provider does tell me that, they have servers hosted at least 4 or 5 or 6 different places. So by chance, if even one of the server data centers that are there does face an issue, they have mirror backupping services there as well. So they are always up, is what they say. Up till now, I've never faced any trouble. So I believe what they are saying is absolutely true. The best option that I have over there is that it takes a differential backup of the data which I have selected to every 3 hours. Now it's up to you to select. You can select typically every hour, every 3 hours, every 6 hours, every day, whatever option suits you, you can do that. The cost is very reasonable, I must tell you. I recently renewed it somewhere in the month of March. I must be using somewhere about 25 to 30 GB of data online. And I must be paying somewhere in the region of 10,000 rupees yearly, which I believe is reasonable. Someone might feel that a 25 or 30 GB data is not enough, and we might be having 1 TB or a 2 TB or a 5 TB of data. What I must tell you is that generally the backup should always be taken of the live data, of the current year's data, and not the entire data that we have. We might be having, depending on the number of years of our practice, we might be having data of 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Do we require everything online? I don't think so. So typically, you can have a 3 or a 4 year data online, and the rest of the data, what you can do is you can take it on an external hard disk once and keep it somewhere safely stored, which can be accessed at any point in time, because rarely would those data undergo changes. The data that undergoes changes are the live data that we use. So, one can typically use those services. I would name the service provider. This service provider is Vertex Online Backup. I think they are based out of Bhandup somewhere, so nearby where you all are. I have been very, very fortunate. Their services have been really excellent. Typically, whenever my backup has stopped for whatever technical reasons, after 2 or 3 days, I do receive a call on my cell phone saying that, Ankit bhai, your backup has stopped somewhere. It is not working. Please check your server or give it to me online, and I will, verify it and let you know what is the issue, and I will resolve it. I mean, that is the kind of services that they've been regularly providing. I'm really blessed to have them. So that is another option that we should always look at is migration capabilities. Today, we might be opting to certain option which suits our level of practice or our size of practice, which we are as of today. But tomorrow, as we grow, probably the option that we've selected today might not work for us. And hence, we would want to shift from an option A to an option B. And here, the migration capabilities would be very helpful. If at all someone comes and tells us कि अभी ये जो data यहाँ पे पड़ा है वो यहाँ पे से यहाँ पे कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते, and you'll have to actually start your groundwork day from day zero, it will not only cost us in terms of money, but time is another thing that it will take, right? Which is generally typically which you would not want to spend there. So that is one another aspect that we should look at, whether the whatever option that we are selecting, whatever service provider that we are selecting, how comfortable they are, how easy it is on migration. So then I come to the most important software that we all have, Tally. Tally is an integral part of our lives since I don't know when. And any topic that we discuss on softwares or being online, we cannot miss on Tally. So what I've done is Tally typically two functions that I would cover here: accounting, that is what we all do, and another is auditing. Tally from audit is a feature that is available on Tally. Some of us are aware but not utilizing. Some of us are not aware at all, and that is why Himanshu Bhai very particularly wanted me to take this as a topic. So in a way, it might seem a bit off, but it's a request, and which I agree with him that it is an important part of our lives. So I should definitely discuss it. So coming to the first part, accounting, how we can look at doing that. So there are a lot of Tally service providers itself. So typically from where we have bought our Tally license, you can speak to them, and a lot of them have started providing a service, sort of a VPS, which is dedicated for Tally. So for example, if we look at shifting all our other applications from the desktop based to a web based, what we can do is only for Tally we can have a VPS, which would cost far lesser than the other options. And you can speak to them, and I am not aware of the costing since I've never went through that as an option, but you can inquire, and I think it's a reasonable cost that they are providing at. Even Webtel for that matter is providing us with those services, so you can even speak to them if you want to. So this is first solution that I have. If we do not want to opt for this option, then there is another option that I have right now started in my office, which is Drive File Stream. Now, what is Drive File Stream? Drive File Stream is nothing but a service that is offered by the Google Drive that we all know. So it's nothing but an extension of the Google Drive that is there. There is a separate service called Drive File Stream, and you can download it, the exe file from the Google website, and install it on your PC. What one can do is that this again is not a permanent solution, a temporary one, I must tell you, where right now Tally provides us with monthly licenses, which costs somewhere 600 rupees per month. And I have been told by well-wishers that Tally very soon is going to come up with options wherein they are going to charge only rupees 300 per license per month. So typically what I have done is there are 4 or 5 of my staff who are right now coming to office. So they have the access to the Tally on the office. There are about 5-6 of them who are working from home, who are not able to travel. For them, I have purchased 3 Tally licenses, which can be shifted between them. So it's not that Tally is used every day, day in, day out by all of them together. So I've tried to divide the work between them, wherein certain people work on other applications and certain people work on Tally. So I purchased 3 licenses, and they keep on surrendering license at one place and again installing it back at another place, so that whenever anyone who wants to use the software can use it. So that is what I have done. So now I will just briefly show you the steps, or explain you the steps how the Drive File Stream works. As I told you, you can download the exe file, the application from the Google website. After downloading, install it. Create a new Gmail ID. Every Gmail ID generally allows us with a 15 GB of storage data. So after creating a new Gmail ID specifically for this purpose, the Drive File Stream that I had installed, I logged in to that server with the new ID that I have created. I have installed this server. I have installed this particular application first on the server. I started shifting the Tally data from the place where it was currently stored, a D drive or an E drive, and started shifting it to this Drive File Stream. Then I've right-clicked on the folder and selected to keep these data on my computer. What this option allows is that at any point in time, any changes that we make in the data, it will always be stored locally on your computer. After I completed this task, I asked all of my staff to do the same on their laptops or their desktops, whichever they have at their home. Again, they downloaded the application, they installed the application, they logged on with the same Gmail ID that I have created. and they selected the same option of keeping those data locally. What it did was that whatever data I had stored at the server was started to be downloaded on their PC. After this complete exercise was over, whenever they start the tally with the monthly license that they have bought, they could give the path of the tally data to be kept taken from those particular data where it has been installed. After any data changes or any work that I do, after I save the data and I come out of tally, what it does is it typically saves the data locally, and also it starts uploading it on the server. Once it uploads on the server, along with it, it also starts downloading into the various other computers where with the same ID I have installed Drive file stream. So it really helps. It keeps the data synced, and I have been working with this particular option since about 2 or 3 months, and it has been working very smoothly. I have not had any issues so far. So far, so good. One advice or one caution that I would like to bring here is that anyone who is working on one data should not be used by someone else as well. So to give a practical example, say for example, I have logged on and I have started working on the data file named Ankit SANGHVI, and then someone else is also working. Someone else can work on a data named, say, Alpesh Bhai. There will be no issues. But if two people are simultaneously working on Ankit SANGHVI, then the errors start keeping up. So that is one precaution, one strict instruction that we need to give, and need to ensure that no single data is being used or is being opened at the same time by two people. If we follow this particular precaution very smoothly, then I have been having no issues at all, and we can easily look at shifting our data online for some months. Again, as I told you very clearly, this is an option which I believe is a temporary option. It is not a permanent one. It is only to weather out this time that we all are there with. And once everyone is back online to the office, everyone's back to the office, then they can typically shift to the normal methods that they are using. Another question, is anyone amongst us using Tally audit feature? I mean, if someone can typing yes, I would love to have a yes. So I think no one has used this. So someone has just put in on the chat box, isn't AnyDesk the best solution and simple solution for Tally use? I would say yes. If only one user has to access the data, you can give them AnyDesk. But if we have 5, 6, 7 people, can we do that? I don't think so. So that is where I come from, Drive file stream. So most of us have answered that we are not using. So I'll take you to Tally audit. What I will do is I'll stop sharing my screen and I will start sharing again with Tally, and I will try to show some of the options that are available. Okay, start sharing Tally. Share. So everyone can view my screen?
Yes, Ankit bhai.
Yeah. So this is Tally. It's a demo data that I have chosen to select here. And so first and foremost step to start using Tally is to enable security features. So typically, if you look at F12, you look at, okay, 1 second. Yeah. So as you can see here, what I've done here is I've enabled security controls for the data. So until and unless you enable security features, your Tally audit option will not be visible on the data that we are seeing. So this is first and foremost step that we need to take. We need to we need to enable the security features. Once we've enabled the security features, what we will see is we'll see an audit and compliance feature that will start coming onto your gateway of Tally. For again, to add on to the security features, what I will say is that, you can create a separate user ID and password for an auditor. So if you go to the user options, here you see, you can have different users being created, and which person has access to which particular function of the Tally can easily be selected. So if you have an owner, obviously an owner will have access to everything, right? And accounts will have access to, you can select what access they will have. You have an option of types of security. Here you can select in terms of what one can have an access to. So typically if you have selected accounts, then what will they have an access to? What is we disallowed? You can see the screen. There is one section where disallow the following facilities, and then there is an section where allow the following facilities. So you can select whatever you want, give them access. You can have a list, a complete list of whatever features are available. Here you can have also an option of days allowed for backdated vouchers. I don't know how many of us typically use this feature, but we've seen a lot of times when people go back and start using or start entering data to last year's data, which has already been frozen and the balance sheet has already been signed. So selecting this option will allow us to disable them from accessing data beyond a certain period. So that is one option we can select. And then you can have a tax auditor. You want full access to them to be given. And then once you get the data, you can log in with your user ID and password and start accessing the audit and compliance module. Once we go into an audit and compliance module, you have various options that are available. We have audit documentation, audit and analysis, audit journals, financial statements. I'll take you through audit documentation. If you see, the first option that we have is auditor's program. Audit program, we can actually completely make our entire audit program here. If you want to alter client details, you can select yes, the client's name would be here. You can select the auditor's details. You can select the team who's going to audit. So you have A, B, C who are going to conduct the audit over here. Name of the client, the address, the status of the company, whether it's a partnership firm, private limited, etc. Which industry they are into, if you want to select, whether they have any branches. If they have any branches, the details of the branches can also be selected. And once we do that, we come to this page, and then we can see various options in terms of what audit or which part of the audit is going to be done by whom. So we can say bank vouching, estimate in terms of days, how much days it is going to take. So we can say it is going to take a day. After the plan that we made, you can go back and say actually how much days it has taken. So yeah, this was typically completed. What is the extent of verification did we do? Did we do a complete audit? Did we do sampling? Who was the person who did the verification, whether it was A, B, C, or someone else at the last moment had gone, which we have not named. We can add someone here. So here I can select, say, probably we did it. End of list. Whether there is any typical remarks that we want to give after the vouching. This is obviously whether whatever work was done by our subordinate or an article, who has reviewed it. What are any remarks particular in the review? So entire in this fashion, you can prepare a complete audit program for the particular client. Then we have the auditor's report, which we can do if you want to select these options. We have accounting standards. We have started standards in auditing. Some of them might not be updated by Tally, but we can see at least the ones which are not changed here. So after preparing the audit program is where you can start your audit, and you can go to audit and analysis. So this is the complete audit and analysis page. The first part, if you can see, the heading given here is data analysis. So various analysis of data can be done over here. And last year you can see is how we can actually go ahead and do our auditing, verification of vouchers, etc. Typically, whenever we start our audit, what we do is we verify the chart of accounts. So, here, once you go inside, again, you have various options that are available to us. This is generally from a perspective of ledger scrutiny that we do. Whenever we do a ledger scrutiny, these are the certain reports that we require or we search for. How many accounts have been squared off during the year? So there are 13 ledgers that have been squared off. So out of that, 2 have been verified, 11 have not been verified. The verified and non-verified option comes from the audit that we enter into. How many ledgers are there in the year which have not been not available in the current year? So previous year they were there, but this year they are not available. How many ledgers that are there that have not been used at all in this year? Only balance last year used in current year. So basically this will typically tell us opening balances. Any regroup. So typically a current liability has been shifted to a current asset, something of that sort, if at all it has happened. So here you can see like a Canara Bank here. Earlier it was forming part of bank accounts. It is there as a bank accounts. From secured loans, HDFC Silver Card, it has gone to loans and liabilities. So any regrouping here, you can see whether if at all has been done. Any revenue ledgers that have opening balances. Typically this cannot be possible, but if at all this is there, we can easily catch hold of them. So here, for example purposes, I've seen, you can see transport and packaging and vehicle and repair and maintenance are those opening balances which have a opening balance, which should not be possible. And how many of the ledgers are used only in the current year? They were not used in the last year. So these are some of the options that we can see. Similar to this, we have verification of stock items. So if it's a trading company or a manufacturing company, how many of the stocks are being maintained, you can see this. So now you can see difference in opening stock. Now this is a very typical feature that can be accessed only and only if we have a data of previous company also along with it. So here what you can see is, here you have a previous year company already added. So now there are two options. One option is where the previous year data is already lying within the data that we are accessing. We have not splitted the data. Then it's easily available with the tally itself and it can compare. Even if you have a separate data for the previous year, you have split it between the two. What you can do is you can add compare companies and select the data which is already there of the previous year. And what it will do is you'll start comparing that as a previous year company. So there is where various reports start coming in. So you have a difference in opening stock. Typically what it says is that, in the last year, the opening stock was different and the current year, the opening stock is different. So after the data is being splitted, there are some changes which are made, which is a flag for us, which we can bring to which is brought to our notice. Whether there are any negative stocks that are there, what are the stocks that is not available in the current year, certain stocks which are not at all used in the current year, not used at all, not used in current year, and used only in the current year and not in the previous year. So these are some of the reports again which we can see. So here you can see a CD-ROM dash cover where the data are available. Verification of balances. This is again an interesting feature. So if there has been a split in the data, what we always typically do is we try to verify whether the opening balances are correct or not, which might take, say, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, depending on the size of the data that is there. In Tally, that happens at a click of a button. Once we've loaded both the companies and we select this option of verification of balances, what it does is it throws a report to you where, and all this red that we are seeing is where there has been changes in the opening balance. So the closing balance in the last year was something different and the opening balance right now is different. So you can go to a secured loan and see there is a ledger called Maruti Bankers where in the last year it was 6,40,100, but this year is not there. But you can see below that probably it was erroneously named last year or the name has changed. The name has changed to Muthoot Finance. So you can see that, this probably query which is resolved. So what we can do is we can select here, select it with a space bar and say this is verified. This is no longer in query. So what you will see is that that option will come as verified now. Similarly, SBI loans, since I had already verified earlier, so it is not showing as an error. Unsecured loans, again, City Finance, what we are seeing is the closing balance was different and opening balance is different. So this is the report that it will generate. You can see your HDFC Silver credit card. Here it was showing under secured loans, while here it has come out. So last year it was lying under a different head. So again, what I can do is I can select HDFC Silver card and put it as verified. It's as simple as that. So this is how you can start verifying and removing the queries. So this is how one can compare or verify the opening balances, as I might say. Very interesting feature. Then there are various analytical procedures that are available. I will take it up at a later stage if at all we have that time. We have relative size factor, and again an interesting feature that is available. What it does is that it tries to compare variance in one ledger. So if one ledger has one entry of 1 lakh rupees and one entry of 10 rupees, what it does is that this has a very high relative size factor. So it brings it to your notice. It might be appropriate, it might not be appropriate. That is one which we'll have to choose once we go through the data. So what you can see here is, a debtor with the name MM Lal has one sale of 2,39,200 and one sale with 8320. So whether it is okay, if it's okay, you can leave it at here. But if it's not okay, then this can be brought to our notice. Another important feature which I would briefly cover is periodic payments. This is a very interesting feature. Typically, this is also what we try to evaluate whether 12 rents are paid, 12 electricity bills are there, 12 telephone bills are there or not. So what can happen, what does happen here is you select this option of periodic payments and receipts. You go to master configuration. Once you select master configuration, you will have 4 options: MSME, periodic payments, related party. You can select periodic payments and receipts, and then you will have a list of ledgers that are available. Out of the list, you can select whichever option we feel are the ones which we need to verify. So say for example, I'll pick up conveyance. Conveyance is a periodic party thing. So what I can do is I can select spacebar. It gets selected. You'll see it's highlighted in blue. I will select option F5 or update. So it will form part of a periodic party ledger. Similarly, your basic pay is nothing but probably salary account. So again, here what I'll do is I'll update. So it will go under periodic payments. And once I've selected all the ledgers that I need to select, if I come out, what you can see is earlier only go down rent and office rent was being visible. But now you can see basic pay and conveyance also being there available as an option. So here what we can see is conveyance, you have 36 vouchers. So it will tell you the total number of voucher entries that are there. So in office rent, we can easily see that 12. So wherever, and here you can have an option, you can select any of the ledgers. So even if you have a periodic payment where it should be paid quarterly, you can select that ledger. And we only need to check whether in the column of total vouchers, whether 4 is appearing. For those where the periodic payment has to be quarterly, for where there have to be monthly, it has to be 12. Where it has to be bi-monthly, it has to be 6, and so on and so forth. So this is again an interesting feature that is there, which I wanted to show. Coming to our proper subject of verification of vouchers, here is where the actual audit takes place. Once we go to verification, typically if it's a very large data sample that we have, we might not want to do a complete audit. So you can select, say for example, here I can see, payment. Payment is a voucher, is a total number of vouchers are 471, which are very heavy. And I do not want to have a complete audit for that. I would want to actually have a sample drawn out of it. What I can do is I can select it and go to sample configuration, which is available over here. Once I select that, it will ask me how I want to audit that, whether I want to select all the vouchers and audit, whether I want to select on the basis of the range of amount, whether I want to select on the basis of Benford analysis, which is an accepted methodology for sampling by the institute, which we can select, whether we want to do even number of vouchers, odd number of vouchers, whether we want to select a typical period. So I can select 1 month, do audit for that, come back, select another month that I want to do. So you can have select alternate months. whether any specific vouchers, once we select specific vouchers, we can see how many vouchers I want to see. So from the first voucher to voucher number, say I select 500, it will show me all the 500 vouchers and I can audit all of them. So this is how you can select a sample size that we want to audit. And then I will start my audit. So for example, I will start my audit, say with sales. With sales, what I've done is I've selected Benford analysis and I have selected a sample. Now, do I want to see the samples or do I want to again see the entire? So if I want to only see the samples, what I can do is show samples and it will give me this sample size it has selected. If I want to select the entire range, I can select the entire range. So I go to the month of April. Once I go to the month of April, I have 11 entries in sales. I typically check the transaction. If everything is okay, then I press enter. Once I press enter, there are these three options that are available to us. First option is on hold. For some reason, you want to keep this voucher currently as hold. Second option is audited. We say this is completely audited and we don't have any. The third option that we have is an external clarification, and the fourth option is an internal observation. So how we can use this external and internal observation is that there are certain queries where we just want a clarification from the client, and it's not it's not particular an audit query that is there. So what we can do is we can select an internal observation and type in something what we want to know. An external clarification will always form part of an audit query that we want to raise, and we can type in whatever query we have and select enter. And then we can select who will give the clarification. We can select any and accept, and then someone will give us some clarification at any point in time whenever we raise the queries to them, and so on and so forth. We can look at doing the audit. Sometimes we feel that these are the number of vouchers which I want to audit together. I've already seen them and all of them are okay. What I can do is select all of them using spacebar, select the option audit, and select audited at one go, and all of them will form part of an audited. So this is how one by one, according to the voucher types, we can start doing the audit. So we can do that. Someone can take up, say, a journal, someone take manufacturing, someone can take payments, someone can take receipts, so on and so forth when we start doing auditing. So like you saw earlier, this 7 option was not appearing on the screen. The ones which we selected spacebar and selected audited or external clarifications are which they are right now showing to us as audited vouchers. So this is how typically an audit can be done. You also have an option of related party transactions. What I've done is I've selected some of the parties as related parties, and if at all there are any transactions, it will show you over here. If someone has missed on anyone, what you can do is you can go to master configuration, go to related party. Again, the list of vouchers, list of ledgers will appear over here. And say, for example, Azure Systems is one which I want to select as related party. I can select that as yes. Type in the relation, whichever I want to type, wife of writer, say, for example. And say yes. And what it will happen is that automatically that will form part of my related party disclosure. So this is how we can sample out the related party transactions as well. There are forex transactions separately shown, so you can verify those forex transactions, receipts, sales. It will get divided into, again, MSME transactions. You can select, say, for example, you want to select MSME transactions for sundry creditors, select which out of these are MSME, and you can also enter their registration number and update it, and it will get updated. You can select whether it's micro, medium, small, and their registration number can be done. This can also be done from the masters, but we have this option over here as well. And then you have salary and wages every month, whether salary or what has been paid, you can verify that from here. So these are some of the features that I wanted to bring to light. I would not want to go into much detail, but typically if you can see, a lot of the activities that we do which form part of our ledger scrutiny, a lot of reports or options are available directly at a click of a button on the tally, and a complete audit actually can be done. What one can do is typically create a Google Drive. You can ask your client to scan whatever reports you want, all the sales vouchers, the bills, etc., and keep it on the drive. properly bifurcated. And from there on, you can start auditing with the tally data at your place and the data on the drive. So yeah, this was all about tally, which I wanted to show. It's a very brief that I'm showing. I mean, there are a lot of functions, there are a lot of things that you can do with tally, and it's a whole session in its own, which can be taken up at any given point of time for the benefit of the members. I will come back to our presentation. So this is what I have covered lastly, the tally audit. Next, we come to the next O, that is organize. Now, here, what I would want to cover is managing our work and team, how we can organize ourselves. The biggest challenge always in our practice is managing the team that we have, be it we are working in office or be it we are working from home. This is one thing that we need to take care of irrespective. What I believe is they require a lot of hand holding, at the same time monitoring, which we need to achieve too. We need to have a lot of regular interactions with them. We need to assign tasks. The task management is one thing which we need to really actually work on for ourselves, and if we actually go ahead and do this, it will be really, really helpful for us. There are various tools that are available online. We have Microsoft Teams, we have Slack. So typically what we have done, or what most of us would have done as of today, is we must have created WhatsApp groups for the team that we have, right? Probably a group of GST, probably a group of accounts, probably an entire group of our office staff. What I feel is that we should look at any other medium for interacting with our staff. Why I'm saying so is that typically at any point in time, whenever we open our WhatsApp, we are flooded with so many forwards. If a person like us gets carried away or gets distracted by the other messages, you can imagine definitely the article students and the staff that we have, right? So if we have a dedicated different space where we are interacting with them, it will be really helpful, so that whenever they are working on those particular options, they will not get distracted by the other messages. Out of all these options, what I would like to show to everyone is Microsoft Teams. It's again a very useful tool that I have discovered over the past 3-4 months. And as you can see, this is typically my Zoom account. What I have done is I've created teams here. I have a PPSCO team, a general team, I have a GST team, I have a management team over here. I have posted various files in my management team, whatever typically we want to share amongst ourselves. The basic advantage that you will have here is that you will have access to everything over here. What you can see here is you can see an option of meet here. So you can conduct virtual meetings like what we are doing right now online with the team over here. You can share the files, you can work on files together. So this is a list of checklists that we were supposed to make over the period of last 3-4 months. And what we did was we created a list over here, created deadlines for each one of them, who is going to work on which particular, and you open over here, you can work over here only and come out of it. So this is the advantage that Microsoft Team brings to the table. Mind you, this is the free version that I'm using and it's not the paid version. I do have the paid version as well, but just for the sake of showing you, the free version is why I have created this one. Another thing is, you can also have clients using them. So I have a client of mine who uses Microsoft Teams, and for our audit purposes, what it did was it created a separate team and it shared that team with us. So here you can see the audit team that we have. So I have added only those people who are going to conduct audit for this particular client. What it did was, whatever queries we had, whatever interactions we wanted to do, it is getting loaded. But you can see over here the chats that we must have done. Another thing is, so yeah, here are the chats that we've done over the course of the audit. Here you will be able to view the files. So what we did was we asked them to upload the trial balance as a 1st April trial balance for the 1920 purchase register, our audit plan, the salary sheets. They have uploaded a lot of POs over here. So easily accessible, open any one of them, start auditing, verifying, etc. And we can easily conduct. Click, I wouldn't click meet over here, otherwise it will send a message to them and I'll start a meeting. But click meet over here and virtually we'll be connected everyone. We can start talking to each other. We can record those meetings if you want to, we can not if you don't want to. Another good option that we have, I would switch to my team and I will show you that you can connect your Google Drive as well. So what we've done is there are two options here. One is the OneDrive and one is the Google Drive. I have connected my Google Drive and my Google Drive. Okay, so there is some technical error that is there. I might have to re-log in. But what I meant was you can connect your Google Drive and access to all the data that is there on the Google Drive can be accessed from here. I will try and show you if I can again. So it'll ask me to sign in. Let me see if I can, and it has signed me in. So yeah, so here typically you have access to whatever work, whatever files I have. I have PPSU management, I have a student committee, RRC, etc., etc. Whatever I have been uploaded on my drive, I will be able to see over here. What I will also show you is how I manage my data on my server. A lot of people have been managing in their own. There is nothing sort of a right or a wrong there, but just for the sake of the benefit, I would bring to your notice. So here I have a Tally server that I have. It's been named that way, and then I have the documents which are over here. I have the Tally server over here. The documents, typically what you can see is client wise. I have a one single folder of masters which is always on the top, and all my master files are over here. And then I have all my clients over here. Any one single client folder, if I can show you, just a sec, I will show you. Okay, so I'll show you Excited Visualizers Private Limited. So here I have divided between subject, company law, GST, income tax, others, profession tax, service tax, VAT. Typically, you can also do the reverse. You can have a subject-wise folders first, and then you can have client-wise inside it. Whatever suits one, nothing of that sort. Under income tax, again, I have a TDS, a return filing, income tax documents, anything pertaining to CPC, assessment proceedings, etc. So anything pertaining to accounts gets stored over here. Return filing, I have again assessment year wise. So you have an assessment year 1920, assessment year 2021, which we've already started working on. So you have your bank details, your balance sheet. In 1920, you have your whatever certificates we've taken, the balance sheet, the 26 years, etc., etc. So this is how I have tried to configure my data. Under Tally, what I have done, which I found some of them found it very useful and they started adopting, and that is why only I am showing. What I have done is I have typically created a folder alphabetical wise. So what happens is that typically earlier we used to, and most of us started using it that way, where we had one single data folder. After that, once we started seeing that it gets loaded very heavily, we started creating data 1, data 2, data 3, data 4. But then we always used to find difficulty in remembering what data 1 mein hai, ya 2 mein hai, ya 3 mein hai, etc., etc. So what I did was I started creating alphabetical wise. I have created different folders of audit for assessment years. And what I do is whenever I select which folders are to be backed up, I select only the last 2 years to be backed up. The assessment year 18-19 will no longer be backed up online because that already has been created, and now there is no much changes that are happening over there. So this is how I have tried to organize my work, and that is all I wanted to share as far as the organizing is concerned. That comes to one particular work of task management. How many of us have been using practice management software is one I would want to know. If you can quickly again put it under the chat box, it would be really helpful. So there are some who are asking yes, some are who are asking no, they're not been using. So again, I recommend you should start using one. Recently, the committee of membership benefits did announce a host of softwares that they are making available for us. Pepilio is one of them that is listed over there, and there are various other softwares that are available. One can look at using that as an option. I would just highlight some of the benefits that I believe one can look in if we see or adopt a practice management software. I've been using a practice management software from say about 2006. Initially, like you all must be feeling, it's a very difficult task to actually bring everyone on board. But yeah, we've had our share of challenges in implementing it in our office, but over a period of time we've been successfully managing it. What it does is it obviously gives you better control of the assignments that are there available with us. A lot of times we do tend to miss out on a lot of assignments that we must have catered to and raised bills for that. I'll give you a simple example. Recently during the lockdown, what happened was that one of our clients associate wanted to issue a 15C and CB, and for some reason their chartered accountant was unable to function during that period. I'm talking about somewhere in the month of April, and without 15C CB, obviously they would not be able to transfer the funds which they wanted to make. And I did offer my services. I completed the assignment. Now, if I was not using practice management software or a task management software, as I would call it, then typically by the time I would have come in the month of June or July, and when I started my office, I would have forgotten to bill them. I mean, so many times it has happened in the past. So what it does is it actually gives us a better control. Time management is one. If we can actually force them to properly enter the data into the software. Again, time management is one which we can do. We can monitor the team efficiency with time management, identify non-profitable areas or clients, and whether we want to discard them, or at least ensure that we are not wasting much of our time on those areas. That is another thing that we can look at doing. Process standardization. So a lot of softwares does have the option of keying in standard operating procedures. A lot of softwares come with those inbuilt according to the experience they have, which can be changed according to our firm practices as well. So this will help us in standardizing the practices, giving them a step or a checklist how they typically want to share or work on any particular assignment. Last but not the least, there are a lot of software that are available for data management as well. What this helps is that we've observed that a lot of times clients does call us for last year ka balance sheet chahiye, PAN card ka copy chahiye, so and so forth, whatever certificates we've issued over the past. So this data management software, what that does is they typically connects our Google Drive, where we can store our data, to that data management software. We can give restrictive access with user ID and password to our clients, which allows them to access that data easily. And with that, we are saved from those kind of functions which do not add to the revenue, but does add to the pain points or time that we spend on it. So this is again one suggestion I would have. Pepilio is one software that is available free of cost, I think for 5 users or something of that sort, which the institute has tied up. There are 2 or 3 other practice management software which are also available online, which the institute has tied up with, which you can at least start off, use them in a test environment, see how you can implement that, and once you feel that you can actually use that, you can start using the paid services for them. Last but not the least, I come to the fag end of my presentation: optimize. So typically optimize means using one's resources more effectively. And then I started going through various tools and apps which would help us effectively utilizing our resources. But then I started thinking, which is the most important resource that we have, that we are using in our office. And the simple and the most obvious answer that I had was human capital. Human capital is our biggest resource. Some of the other, we are not investing enough, including me, I must tell you, including me, I also form part of that. We are not typically using our resources that effectively. And then we do have a lot of complaints in terms of the staff quality has decreased over a period of time, and they are not that sincere, etc., etc., etc. So there are some of the points that I have, highlighted over here, how we can actually look at investing in the human capital. First and foremost, what we can do is we can do skill-based training. Again, here I understand I belong to a very small firm as well, where it's a very costly affair if we want to organize training programs for our staff. But what we can do is typically we can have 4, 5, 10 firms from the same area, or our friends or our colleagues whom we feel share the same vision that we have, invest together. That will help us divide the task between the principals as well, wherein one of the topics I can take, some of the topics someone else can take, and it will help us provide trainings. The cost obviously will be divided amongst all of us. What it also does is it helps us in selecting or learning the best practices, which some of the other which we might not be adopting because we might not be aware of them as of today, but which someone else is adopting it since long. It's a good practice which we need to adopt, and that can be highlighted. We can prepare a lot of SOPs and checklists. There are hosts and hosts of checklists that are available online. I mean, you start typing in Google and you'll have them to be easily downloadable in PDFs. And even our institute has hosted so many checklists. There are so many references that are available. Start using them. Start measuring their performances. That can be done. One of the options that I've shared with you over there is that can be done by the task management through the practice management or task management softwares that we have a proper task allocation that we can do. Motivate them. How often do we motivate them? I don't know if we do that more effectively. That is one more thing that we need to do. Another thing that I believe we miss out is communicating. Communication is something which we are not really good at. We try to take a lot of things for granted. I don't know during the period of lockdown how many of us would have communicated with our team apart from work related, what I'm mentioning over here. I'm not saying work related, apart from work related, whether we did that. See, they are more scared, they are more challenged, they are more so if we do communicate with the team, like we played so many family games with our families in this, have we played with them? I think we should do that. It helps a lot. Even communicating with them one-to-one, just mentioning with them that we are there if anything is there, whether everything is okay at their place, having a small session of an Antakshari or a Damsharas or whatever suits you, whatever suits everyone, one can look at doing. But this is one thing, trust me, has been very effective over the period of last 4 months that I have done. What we've done is typically Friday evenings or Saturday evenings, we've had 1.5 hour session. Jam sessions is what we call it, where we play music, we share our other likings, we share our hobbies, what we are doing apart from work, whether things are smooth in their family, everyone is safe, etc., etc. And I could see the bonding being created, not only amongst me and them, but also amongst the team members. And a lot of times, what has come to my notice informally is that if someone was facing some trouble, this other person did cover up without they informing us, and the work was done. They did not come to me for that. And this is something which we need to do more often, which I believe that is another thing that I wanted to share. And I think it is important and effective, and trust me, let's try it. And I think we all will see the benefits once we do it. In summarize, offline to online is a customized process. One process which is effective on my firm is not going to be effective to everyone. So find out which is the process or which is the tool that is helpful for us, and we can look at that. Adoption of technology will definitely pay off in the long run. Earlier, technology was costly. Slowly and gradually, what we are seeing is the technology has become more and more affordable to us. Human capital, time is now to invest into them, bring them on board to various decision making, and you will start seeing wonders in terms of what efficiency they start bringing in on the firm. So this is how I would, summarize my presentation, and I think I'll hand it over to the committee for the question answer round.
Thank you, Ankit bhai. It was a great session, and I'm sure that all the participants will practically apply the technique of organizing and optimizing for their office and auditing. But to just give a formal vote of time, I would request my core committee member, CA Rishi Agrawal, to come forward and give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sneha. Yes. Hello. Thank you, Sneha. We all know managing practice is not an easy task. However, with the detailed knowledge sharing by a speaker, managing practice looks a little easier. Change in time requires change in approach, but the right approach can be understood only by trying again and again. It is a privilege that CA Ankit ji today has shared his hands-on experience with us with a help, which will help us to implement the right approach without much efforts. I thank CA Ankit ji on behalf of entire study circle for sharing his practical knowledge on the subject and helping make our work easier. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for having me here, and I hope I was effective enough and I could deliver what the committee and the conveners had sought out for.
Of course, Ankit bhai, no doubt in that. Ankit bhai, I would now request Disha Koende to share the screen of queries so that you can take up. Yeah, so you can take up ahead. Disha, madam?
I will share my screen, huh? Okay. Ankit ji, I will share my screen.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Disha, madam, can you just make it a little bit more bigger?
Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, fine.
Oh.
Yeah, fine.
So the first question is, are you aware of an ERP to substitute of SAP for a service company having 100 branches in India? They are struggling with SAP because of cost involved. Tally has been unable to provide medical services. So it's a service oriented company. I think you can look at Zoho as an option. Zoho as a plain vanilla has only accounting as a package, but Zoho has developed this entire ecosystem around it, where they have various small tools that are available, which can be added along with the accounting package which they have, suiting the firm, the company that we are talking about. And then they can use, and since Zoho is online, I think any place in India they would be able to serve. So that is one software that comes to my mind immediately. One more software, I've forgotten the name, but it's a Pune based service provider that we implemented for the client's real life example that I was mentioning to you. Just give me some time. I will start taking the question. In the meantime, if I remember that name, I will share it. Or what I will do otherwise, if I don't recollect it right now, I would share it with the conveners and they would definitely share it along with you. What is the annual subscription of VPS? Honestly, I have no idea. I have not implemented VPS, so I have no idea at all, nor I have taken any subscription or any demos for that. So pricing wise, I believe you should, try to go out in the market and try to see what the pricing comes to be fair. And I was talking to someone for VPS. Someone was telling me they were paying somewhere in the region of 3,000 to 5,000 rupees a month for them. But one has to verify. I'm not sure, to be honest, if that is true. But there are many service providers that are available. What I will do is, whenever I share my presentation, in my presentation I have not named some of them. I have some of the names that are available with me. I will add it to the presentation and share it to all the members for the benefit of them. The third question I have already answered isn't AnyDesk. AnyDesk is a good solution. We've used it. We've been using it even before the pandemic, but that typically encompasses only when you have to share it with one user. If you have more than one users who wants to operate, then it would not work. Please add the steps of Tally in the presentation. Surely, sir, I would do that. I would add the steps in the presentation and then share it with you. I will ensure that whatever I have mentioned, I are there on the presentation that I share. How about having a physical server in your office with multiple backups online and offline, where you have control over data? Where please share your view. Sir, obviously that is what we've been doing it up till now. Even the server that I shared with you, which was named Tally server, is the server which is physically present right now in my office. Right now, it is being used only as a data server where the data is residing over there. We've been using mostly desktop-based applications for most of the services that we provide, and that is accessed via LAN. Having multiple backups online and offline, I'm not sure. If you have an online backup and it's steady enough, I don't know if you require an offline backup. Offline backup typically where I use is only for the archived data that I have, where whatever data I'm not selecting for being backed online, I do it on offline. So yeah, if the server is residing with us, we will definitely have more control over the data. But if we are making our own server as an online server through a VPN, one needs to be very, very careful of the breach in terms of the firewall. One is to select a very good firewall software to ensure that, you know, our data is not compromised. We can understand, you know, if a server like Google or a server like Facebook can be hacked, our servers are, you know, easily hackable. So I'm not saying that though because of it's easily hackable we cannot, but there are, you know, various steps one we should take. Like generally, whenever we take a static IP address, what we do is we use only that IP address as our accessing data. What we should do, we should customize it to an extent so that, you know, everyone cannot think of it. If it's a number, you know, a random computer can you know, look at those numbers and try to find your server. But if it's named in a specific manner, then it becomes difficult. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it becomes difficult for a hacker or a computerized hacker to, you know, search for it. So these are some of the steps one should adopt. Have a firewall which will ensure that it is less prone to hacking. Physical checking of vouchers and ticks not possible. Sir, obviously, I mean, I believe right now physical doing anything is not possible. I have a client which is there on the 3rd floor of the same building where I have my office. I have started coming to the office, but he's not coming to the office. No one from his office is coming to the office. So what happens is that though I have been at my office and access to his office is very easy, but since he is not accessing his office, I am not able to have those physical documents which I would want to. So if you want to do it online, physical is not possible. If you want to shift to online, then I think we should look at starting to use Tally as an audit. We all use audit since long, Tally since long. So if we start adopting it, we will evolve the procedures in terms of how we want to do it. We can start with a mix of physical and online, and then probably shift completely to online over a period of time. How to keep audit trail? Sir, audit trail as an add-on is available in Tally Shop. It's a very minimal cost add-on. I think it costs somewhere about 300 rupees or 500 rupees, which you can purchase online. You can talk to any of your Tally service provider as well. And once it is online, the complete trail of whatever we've been doing, which user is doing it, everything will be available for us, and we can maintain that. Another thing that I missed while I was discussing Tally is that one fear we all will have is that, you know, whether whatever queries we raised while we are doing our audit, whether, you know, the user or the client can erase those things or not. Definitely he can. Even if all the security controls are there, the primary owner of the Tally data will always have access to everything. So what typically one should do is one should look at exporting the queries that we've raised into an Excel. The exporting option is always available in Tally, and this is how we can maintain that data with us, and it can form part of our audit documentation as well. So that is something which, you know, we can look at as an option for keeping an audit trail. So yeah, I have covered most of the questions that are there here. There are a lot of
Ankit
queries.
bhai,
Yeah.
Ankit bhai, there are few more queries
Yes.
which have came up right now. So I request forum to take up that orally.
Absolutely.
Sure, Sneha. So the question is, can you share the link of various online services like income tax or GST, etc., which the CA Institute has tied up with?
So you can go to the ICI website. I will show it to you on screen if possible. I will share my screen just a sec. Okay. Share screen. I will share my Chrome. So I believe you can see my screen. Just give me a sec. So here you can go to CMP benefits ICAI and it will take you to the cmpbenefits.ici.org. So the link is cmpbenefits.ici.org. What I will do is I will also paste it on the chat box. Just give me a chat. I don't know, I'm not able to open the chat box, but so CMP benefits, what you can see here is all the benefits that recently have been announced. What are the insurance services that are there? What are the software, the Tally software solution that 50% or 80% discount, practice management software, Papilio that I was mentioning to you about, XBRL softwares, antivirus, so and so forth, certificate courses, publications, financial services. So yeah, cmpbenefits.ici.org is one place where you will be able to see the entire, and I will also paste it on the, yeah, so I've done that. So yes, you can see there, and this is where you can visit for the benefits from ICAI.
So the next question is, how do you manage your time with roles at various organizations along with your practice?
How do I manage my time? It's difficult. It's very difficult, but it's more about liking. So if you're passionate about certain things, I think it would not matter much. I would tell you one small thing. This is something which I have learned from my father. If you see my practice setup, it's a very small practice that I believe I have here. And typically, if you compare my practice or my firm with a similar kind of a firm which is available outside, you will see that the number of people I employ are far more than the number of people that is employed generally in a practice. Generally, we have a habit of doing work on our own, most of the things. I do a lot of delegation. I never sit on so many of the functions. So be it GST return filing or be it TDS return filing. I don't remember last when I had actually done any TDS return filing or GST return filing at all. So this is what I do. Another advantage that I have is that recently we've graduated from a 2-partner firm to a 4-partner firm. So I have people who look after a specific set of services, and that's how I can spare some time for whatever I want to.
Okay. The next question is, would you like to suggest server hardware configuration for 10 to 12 users?
For 10 to 12 users, server hardware configuration, I would say, Dell provides a good options. I generally love Dell as a service provider. Their hardwares are generally really good. Their servers are really good. Configuration would typically range from an 8 to 12 GB RAM, about 2-3 TB of data. The processors, etc., that come along with the server are far different from what we generally discuss, which i3, i5, etc. But go to the Dell website, you'll have various server options that are there. But 1 TB of hard disk and about 8 or 12 GB of RAM would be sufficient enough. And typically i7 is what would be a best option. But one can look at it. I mean, I'm not the right person. What I would be mentioning would be, just offhand of what experience I have. But your IT expert would be the best person to tell you. But Dell is a good server provider. Servers, I think they are good.
Okay. What about OneDrive as an option to VPN?
OneDrive is a wonderful option. I have been using it. In fact, the screen that I shared where the Excel files or the client data that you saw is all on OneDrive. I've been using OneDrive since I think 5 years or 6 years now. I think 5 or 6 years back, our institute had tied up with Microsoft for providing Office 365. Since then, I've been using Office 365. And the first thing that I did once I wanted to shift my data online was shift all my current data to OneDrive. OneDrive is a wonderful option. You can share the links. The biggest advantage what OneDrive gives is it gives you a very similar homely feeling when we are using softwares like Excel, Word, etc. We are so used to seeing Microsoft Word, Excel that when we are working on, say, a Google Sheet or Google Word, we are not that comfortable. It does not feel very comfortable. So I would say that OneDrive is a very good option. The pricing are also very good. Recently, when the benefits were announced by ICAI, one of the proposed benefits was where they were looking at tying up with Microsoft as well. So I think we can wait for about a month or two, and I think ICAI would come up with that as well, and we can have that add that to our service or software.
Which practice management software are you using?
So right now I'm using a practice management software called Finwheel. I have changed about 3 to 4 practice management softwares over the course of about 10 years or 14 years that I've been using one. Last is the Finwheel that I have started using. A good software. I'm happy, and one can look at that as an option.
Please suggest a good firewall software or hardware.
No clue, sir. Hardware, Cisco are good. Cisco's firewalls are good, but again, all those are very, very expensive. So I would say talk to your IT expert, hardware expert, and he will be the best person to suggest you.
Okay. Whether any antivirus server addition can be a substitute for firewall?
It can help you, definitely. I've been using QuickHeal. We all, I think, would be using QuickHeal since a long, long time. So QuickHeal has those good firewall options available with us. But how many of us are actually using QuickHeal again to the extent that we are supposed to use? We have just installed it as a antivirus software. While if you look at the QuickHeal Total Security, you not only have a firewall as an option, but you also have privacy options where you can restrict a lot of websites that you don't want your team to have access to. You can restrict people using pen drives, etc. on their PC. These are so many other add-ons that are available which we are not using. One should start using it. I'm a strong believer. Don't jump to different softwares. Don't jump to newer software that come along with it. Say, even if I have spoken one, I always believe whatever right now we have or we are already paying for, try to utilize that to the maximum extent we can. And once we go to that level where we've used that particular software to the maximum extent, then you can shift to another one which we want to, which can add on to what the current software is not providing to. Don't start pending. I mean, it's very easy. I have suggested you one software and you start again inquiring about it and start paying for it and using it. But don't do that. I would always, at the cost of repeating, there are so many softwares which we already subscribe to. Try to use those software to the maximum extent possible. After we've done that, look at spending otherwise.
Ankit, by the last question, please suggest a good antivirus software.
Antivirus, I've been using QuickHeal. I have been very satisfactorily using it. So I think QuickHeal is a good option which every one of us can use. It's a good software. I've used a couple of softwares earlier and I've faced attacks in my firm. But post implementing QuickHeal, I have not faced any. So one can look at implementing that.
Sneha.
Okay, it's done, Forum. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Ankit, all the questions have been resolved.
I hope I could answer to them to the maximum extent. And I have all the benefits. I hope everyone has benefited from this webinar. I thank once again to the conveners and the committee for presenting me with this opportunity. And it was lovely being here. As I told you, Mulund is my Sasural, so it's always fun to being at Mulund. And thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ankit bhai, once again for accepting also our invitation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we end the session?
Yes, sure. Rishi?
Okay.